Hey everybody, welcome to Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page. Well, it's holiday season, so what are you drinking? With alcohol or without? On this episode, I'm talking with one of the world's best mixologists about culinary cocktails and mocktails and her time as a Tequila Goddess from Las Vegas. Here's Mariena Mercer Boarini. Mariena, how are you? Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
You know, usually I open this with hi chef. Do I say hi mixologist? How do you address someone who does what you do?
Usually you call me by my first name, Mariena, but I answer to anything. My title is confusing, right? Master Mixologist of Wynn Resorts, North America, which again, quite the mouthful, right?
That's a big business card.
Right. What does that mean? That's a pretty confusing thing for most people. And how did we get to that title? I'm very fortunate. I get to oversee Wynn Las Vegas, which I have 40, it's an ebb and a flow, but somewhere in the area of 40 different menus that I get to oversee and create for. I also help out with Encore Boston Harbor. And then last year I did some stuff out in Macau, which I realize obviously is not North America, but at Wynn we are a big family. So my title just means basically I get to create for many different venues.
Okay. What is the difference between a bartender and a mixologist?
At the heart of all of it, I would say I'm a bartender. That's really my first love and how I got into creating. I think what makes my title specifically a little different is that I'm no longer behind the bar. I've been doing things on this end, the creative end, for longer than I ever bartended. I think I'm going on about 15 years now of overseeing large programs and just creating cocktails. I also oversee what I think is the gem of the property at Wynn. It's called our beverage development kitchen or our mixology kitchen. And it's basically a commissary kitchen that creates, all of our different syrups, our purees, garnishes, everything across property. We do over 60,000 gallons of product coming out of that kitchen every year. So it's a really impressive space. So I think really the line for me is I'm a bartender at heart always. But when I say bartender to most people, they would think I was behind the bar at a shift. So we call it mixologist, and that's kind of the overarching kind of creative person.
In the past few years, I don't know, maybe 10, 15, 20 years, there's a sense, at least in some places or among some people, that the making drinks thing has become elevated. Is it part of the culinary world?
I would say in that Venn diagram of shared space, definitely. I think the culinary always is taking the lead, and cocktails kind of follow a lot of the flavor profiles, global inspiration, techniques. So I think there's some shared space, definitely.
Do you have to take cocktails is it still okay to just go out and get blasted?
I always say that cocktails are about having fun. We shouldn't take ourselves too seriously ever. During the pandemic, I did a lot of cocktail classes online. The world closed down, but people still wanted a good drink. And I got to relate with people at all different styles of drinking and cocktail crafting. And it was fun for me to see that not everybody has a fancy bartender set of tools. And we got to get down to as granular that, the big spoon in your cutlery drawer is an ounce and, have fun with cocktails. And that's always my overarching story. It's just, they should be fun. But we can have a good cocktail and have fun, not mutually exclusive.
Let's talk about how you got to the world of cocktails. You are something incredibly rare on the face of the earth. You were born in and grew up in Las Vegas.
I'm actually a second generation. Both of my parents were born and raised in Las Vegas, and I have two boys. They're third generation Las Vegans who are keeping that tradition alive. But yes, I grew up always in love with the glamour of the Las Vegas Strip for sure.
Yeah, but as a kid, you didn't hang out on the Strip. There must be another Las Vegas. What's it like being a kid, going to school in Las Vegas?
That's what fake IDs are for, David. I'm just kidding. I definitely, Las Vegas is such a beautiful city. I am thrilled to be an ambassador for this city that I loved so much. And there's a reason, obviously, I've stayed and chosen to raise my family. Beautiful for anything outdoors. Obviously, you have Red Rock, which is beautiful mountains. Great for, you can go 2 hours in the car anywhere to go camping. There's a ton of culture. It's a really, really beautiful city. I think most people that come and visit Las Vegas, they stay on one street, Las Vegas Boulevard, obviously on the Las Vegas Strip, and judge our entire city by that. But we're a really beautiful community with tons of culture. But you were correct. I didn't grow up going to the Las Vegas Strip. I was only allowed to go one time a year for my birthday. I was always fascinated. So when I turned 18, I was like, this is the first thing I'm doing. I'm going to go and work on the Las Vegas Strip. I went and got a job at the nicest steakhouse in Las Vegas as a hostess, which is really all you can do at that age. But that really helped me fall in love with hospitality, fine dining. We had a master sommelier at the time, so I really loved wine and asking different questions. And we had some beverage directors from a neighboring property that would come over, and they knew I was turning 21, and they found it kind of endearing that this kid would come and ask them all these questions about spirits and wine and beverage. So they actually created a job for me, which I say only in Las Vegas. It was called Tequila Goddess.
Tequila Goddess.
Tequila Goddess, and that's a business card, right?
Oh, yeah. What was the job?
It was about 20 years ago, so no one was really studying tequila at that time. It was a nascent and burgeoning category in the United States. You know, Patron was just kind of riding that crest, and 100% agave was something people were just learning about. So I said, I don't know. I don't think this is really where I want my life to go. I said, let me go home and ask my mom if I can go be a tequila goddess. So I went home, and just like any 21-year-old kid, I said, can I go be a tequila goddess? And she said, absolutely not. And so like any 21-year-old kid, I went back and said, sign me up. And right after my 21st birthday, I got on a plane and went out to the town of Tequila. And I was fortunate enough to go and travel and stay at different distilleries and really just fell in love with the spirit of Mexico in all senses of the word.
This was your job? They sent you to Mexico to go learn about tequila?
To go and study, very fun, research and development, to go and study the distillation process, just every aspect of making tequila. And really, I fell in love with the process. And then I came home to Las Vegas.
So you researched and you developed and you came home and you were a tequila goddess. What does that mean?
Basically, I was similar to like what a sommelier does with wine. I oversaw a collection of tequilas. It was a collection of over 100 tequilas, and so incredibly passionate about tequila and so knowledgeable that on my first day, they actually, right before the first day, said, okay, and here's what a tequila goddess wears. And I said, no, thank you. I am not doing this. And I was already so invested in the knowledge and the passion. And I loved tequila so much that I went ahead and put on this costume of many crystals and not much else. But I realized that when I walked out there, I was so, obviously I'm 6 foot tall, so I get a lot of attention already. When I walked out there, everyone was staring at me. But when I started talking about tequila in such a passionate way that it was so effusive and people really started to fall in love with tequila, forget what I was wearing, have me sit at their table, talk with me. I had, a couple of, I would call them my adopted grandparents because they just fell in love with tequila so much. They reached out to me multiple times in the year to just chat and treat me like their granddaughter. There was just a lot of really cool ways that this job propelled me to do other interesting things. But one of them was to fall in love with spirits that really take my love for flavor and crafting cocktails. People started writing articles about me. I had always loved science and flavors, so I was able to kind of parlay that into my own style of bartending and mixology. And I started getting hired around the country to consult in tequila programs and teach people about tequila and to write bar programs.
We'll be right back.
Then I started doing mixology competitions, which I was doing very well at.
You went overseas and won like a world championship, right?
I did. I won a global title. I competed against 11 different countries in Morocco. And the challenge actually was they basically set us free in the souks, the spice markets, and we had to barter for our ingredients and come back to the riad that we were staying at and tell our story, our journey of mixology through these ingredients. And I won.
You were named Bartender of the Year by Eater, one of the top 10 female bartenders in the world by the Drinks Business. Unlike a chef who can go to culinary school, did you just self-teach yourself this?
Absolutely. I always like to say that I'm curiosity and passion propelled. I really take inspiration, everything around me. And just, once I'm set on something, I'm 100%.
Okay, so you're getting known. You've taught yourself how to do this. Are you into what came to be known as the molecular stage yet?
That was in my very beginning of my career, actually. My nickname competing was Miss Wizard. I was very influenced by what these molecular gastronomists were doing.
What were you doing with it in terms of the drinks you were making?
I was doing a lot of spherification and foams, and to the point like taking it on competitions.
Sorry, I didn't understand that word. Spiritification?
Spherification nitrogen is basically taking a liquid and encapsulating its own skin around it. So think of almost like popping pearls or boba. When I first fell in love with it, it was a lot of the bells and the whistles. I had a liquid nitrogen ice cream shop that I opened, and it was all different boozy formats of ice cream. It was these really fun concepts. So this Las Vegas again. So it was girls in bikinis and lab coats and big goggles. But we were doing these high level ideas like Dolce Gorgonzola and pear ice cream with honeycomb crisp. And it was all being made in front of them with liquid nitrogen and, popsicles.
With booze in it.
Correct.
Where was this happening?
This was at the Cosmopolitan.
We've jumped ahead a little bit. You're out competing, you get a name, then you're recruited to be the mixologist that starts everything up at the Cosmopolitan?
Correct. It was kind of the first big hotel to do mixology on that scale in Las Vegas. I'm sure somebody else would have done it had I not, but it was very serendipitous in the timing because I had created such a reputation for myself, and there was a lot of journalists writing articles about me, and I was winning competitions, and the beverage directors at the time came and found me and really gave me carte blanche and a lot of autonomy and trust and said, we want you to create this mixology program that Las Vegas has never seen. I oversaw, it was right under 30 programs there.
Now, wait, how old were you?
27.
How the hell did you do this?
I love a challenge, and I'm unstoppable once my mind is set.
Okay, so you made boozy ice cream at the Cosmopolitan. You also invented, they had the Chandelier Bar, is a famous bar there. Why is it famous?
It's a 3-story chandelier, so that's the first. It's pretty impressive. It's a beautiful spectacle, but it was one of the first bars. I think it was the first bar in Las Vegas to really put mixology on a national scene and also an international scene. Some of the concepts we were doing there 15 years ago, liquid nitrogen tableside and really cerebral culinary style technique cocktails happening there. So it was getting a lot of attention, but I created a cocktail called the Verbena, which is still there. It really has become my legacy. It is the best-selling specialty cocktail in all of Las Vegas of all time. I think there's over $30 million in sales associated with this particular drink. And the fun thing about it is it's actually not on any menu. It's all word of mouth. It's known as like the secret cocktail. It's a margarita. Is it a good drink? Sure, it's a good drink. But really what the fun part is, have you had a buzz button before?
The what? Huh?
Exactly. I like that reaction in people. Buzz button. It's a flower that's a natural alkaloid. So you chew up this flower, your tongue starts tingling. And as your tongue is tingling, your salivary glands basically becoming awakened and alive. So your tongue is tingling. It's unlike any sensation you've ever had. And then you start tasting different flavors and nuances. It basically makes you an ephemeral super taster. So about 5 minutes, you'll drink the cocktail alongside the sensation and you taste those different nuances and flavors. So it's really kind of a roller coaster of flavor.
And you introduced this with the Verbena.
Correct.
What else is in the Verbena? It's just a margarita?
It's a margarita that has yuzu, ginger, and recruit lime leaves, a little bit of clementine to it. Not incredibly special, but it works synergistic to what's going on in your mouth. And I think it was before, TikTok and those kind of things. So the fact that it did go so viral and was embraced is something that's pretty cool.
What other nifty, I can't believe I said that word. What other unusual or innovative, I actually said nifty.
I liked it.
What other innovative cocktails did you create at the Cosmopolitan?
I had a lot of fun on those menus. I was doing things that I probably would never do now that were really just out there.
Like what?
Trying to think. I had edible frankincense and myrrh in a cocktail. I had my liquid nitrogen ice cream. Another one that was very popular was the fire-breathing dragon, which was pink peppercorn rimmed, almost like daiquiri adjacent cocktail, but it had freeze-dried raspberries that were dropped in liquid nitrogen. The fun part is when you take the raspberries out and you put them in your mouth, you breathe this huge fire-breathing dragon kind of smoke spectacle.
Where did you come up with this?
A lot of my inspiration, like I said, definitely at that time was molecular gastronomist. And I also like to be very present in tune. I must say it's like daydreaming through cocktails. I have like 25 notebooks scattered in my car, in my house, in my desk, and I'm just always kind of writing. Maybe it's a song lyric that resonates or an affinity of flavors or, a book, anything like that.
So how long were you at the Cosmopolitan?
I was there for 12 years.
And then what? The wind stole you? What happened?
The world shut down. The pandemic happened. But that was actually, again, serendipitous kismet or very great happenstance in a way for me. I had always had these ideas and wanted to be an entrepreneur of my own. So I took that buzz button from the verbena and I created my own company. I have a line of bar products and one of them is called Electric Dust. So I realized that flour had really only been used fresh. No one was really doing much else. And so I started reading, patents and anything I could do to really develop this idea. So I created a process to make it shelf stable and into a dust. I took flavors that are synergistic to the tingling going on in your tongue and your salivary glands, and I created it. I also love multisensory experiences, so I love beautiful things. So I gave it different hues and an iridescent. So it's a dust that goes on cocktails to democratize the process of getting those flowers, which are fresh and harder to get. This is a shelf-stable dust.
It kind of feels like pop rocks for booze.
They call it, so the flower itself, they do call it nature's pop rocks, but it is really different. Where a top rock is topical, you can feel it on top of your tongue. This is in your tongue. So it's your salivary glands just going wild. So it's really unique. It's called the Sichuan flower. Buzz button is more, it's like street name. So if you've ever had Sichuan peppercorn or really great Sichuan chicken before, it's a shared compound called spillenthal. It's that tingling, but it's so much more electric.
Back in a moment. Okay, so the pandemic comes and goes, you become an entrepreneur, then you go to the Wynn?
I do. So during that time in that pandemic, I actually had a bunch of large clients that I'm under NDAs, so I can't talk about who they are, but
You'll whisper them to me later.
I do a lot of custom work, and then we also sell on our website. And then the Wynn came to me and I said, I started this company and I'm really loving doing this. I came on as a consultant. I agreed to for a year, and within a few months, I really fell in love with it, the support that it was getting me, autonomy. And my VP at the time, she said, I just want to put a ring on it. Can we just do this? And I said, yes. I said, I do.
So you're in charge of the drinks program at 30, 40 places?
It's right under 40 different venues that I get to create for, and it's an ebb and a flow. We're always, opening really new, amazing programs. So that's bars, that's restaurants, that's cafes.
Let me talk about the restaurants, because when you're doing cocktails for a restaurant, I guess they can stand on their own, but I think the idea is that you want to work with the chef to integrate their vision into your glass. How do you do that?
I think that's something that made me fall in love with Wynn, because it's like being part of the best supergroup. Every part is these incredibly talented, the best in class chefs, the best in class designers. We're, very different than a lot of other casinos is that we own and operate nearly all of our own venues. So we're not leasing out a bunch of restaurants, we're operating. So our chefs are the best, our pastry chefs are the best, our bread shop is the best.
Okay, pardon me, you're on brand, you're very good as a corporate ambassador, but exactly how do you work with a chef to make sure that their vision is expressed through the drinks you do?
So part of the story that I was telling is that the chefs are so important to my vision and the design. So we're all coming together, telling our own story together. One voice can't be too loud, right? It's a symphony of players that come together. And so for, let's say, Wing Lei, which is the first Michelin-starred Chinese restaurant in North America, when I was studying that menu, I definitely collaborated with the chef and found everything he was doing in the kitchen, went through the design, but then it was also collaborating my own voice, which was studying Chinese philosophy, architecture, culture, cuisine, anything I could find.
You go that deep into the culture behind the cuisine?
Religion, everything, art, music.
What drinks did you then come up with to advance that cultural vision?
So then every single cocktail is named after a different part of Chinese culture, and then the ingredients come to tell the story around that culture. Obviously, I used electric dust in one of them because it's similar to the Sichuan peppercorn. When I was out in Macau, our Macau properties, that's where I got to try fresh Sichuan peppercorn for the first time with their chefs. And we don't get that in the United States. We only get dried, and they pair it with heat and chili. So I got to try some of their cuisine. And that's when I came back and created Electric Dust Fire. fire, which is my spicy. So there's definitely a collaboration, inspiration both ways.
So tell me about a drink you created for that restaurant.
There's a Seven Sages, which is a Sichuan peppercorn infused vodka. There is a tea. I got to study with a tea sommelier. So these are jasmine pearls, a honey to it. What else did I put in it? A little bit of matcha. It's a play on a margarita. It has a little bit of piquancy, spice, but also the sweetness of the honey, and tells the story of the Seven Sages.
Let's bounce around some of the restaurants and give me a drink or two. The Delilah restaurant. What's the food like there?
It's a supper club. It's really, really like snazzy, jazzy, a really fun vibe. It came from a company out of LA that's doing it, the H. Wood Group.
For them, you created something called the Stepford Wife, I'm told. What is that?
That also did have electric dust on it. It was a beautiful spritz that was finished with a perfume. I call it Eau de Delilah. So I love creating different edible perfumes.
So you created a scent for this drink?
Correct. I have chef envy when it comes to like how they can plate, right? Because you can plot out a whole journey of texture. You can drag something through a sauce and then pair it with something crunchy. Drinks are harder to do that, right? They're amorphous liquid that all comes together on a glass. How are you creating nuance, flavor, layers? So this in particular, you have millions of olfactory receptors, but you have thousands of taste buds. So you do taste predominantly with your nose. So I love to create edible scents. That one is Eau de Delilah at Overlook, one of our bars. They have a tour. Everything is about luxury destination. So it's terroir-driven perfumes. Every different edible perfume takes you to a different region.
I'm not done with the Stepford Wife. Hold on.
Okay.
It's your take on a drink called a French 75. Okay, you got, according to what I'm reading, Grey Goose Strawberry Lemongrass Vodka?
It is. It's one of their newer expressions.
And then you've got Ramazote, which for anyone who doesn't know is an Amaro, which is a phenomenal kind of Italian after dinner drink. Is that the one? No, it's Cynar that's from, what's the plant?
Artichoke.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Ramazote is
Orange blossom. Cynar is a little bit more almost like very bitter and masculine. This is on the other end of the spectrum, very feminine.
Neither one of them can hold a candle to a Verna. Are you doing anything with a Verna?
I do have some things with the Verna. I like to do plays on, old fashions or and add just a whisper of that or espresso martinis.
To stay connected to connecting the drinks to the food. So the restaurant Pisces, that's Mediterranean seafood?
Correct.
Give me a drink you made for that.
That's a really fun, one of my newer menus. Very inspired by Chef Martin and everything he's doing. Obviously, the Mediterranean is a very vast region and quite the basket of ingredients to play with. Some of my top hits are hot and dirty. Have you had a hot and dirty martini before?
No, I know what a dirty martini is. A lot of olive juice, right?
Right. Invented in the 1950s-ish. And why do we put olive juice in vodka? Because salt makes anything taste better, right? And it's what we had at our fingertips. But these days, our palate has evolved so much. We crave spice, piquancy, acidity. So I actually do an olive brine there. It's a Mediterranean mix of a few different types of olives, and then green peppercorns in brine, pepperoncinis, roasted red peppercorns. So where you would see a dirty martini have that one note salt brine, it has all of these different flavors. So the vodka is pretty important in a martini, right? Because it's the foundation of that cocktail. So I use Castra Elion, which is a Greek vodka made from olives, to really tell that story.
Can you taste the olive-ish sense of the vodka?
There is a little bit. It's not overwhelming or anything, but just when you try different vodkas made from different grains and things, you do get little different mouthfeel, but it's not olive flavored in any way. And then I garnish it with a olive that's stuffed with a piri piri chili from Africa. Again, trying to bring in all of these flavors from all over the Mediterranean for a pretty fun experience. I have you ever had a clarified cocktail or a milk punch before?
No, what's that?
They are everywhere right now. Basically, it's a pre-prohibition technique of taking something that's highly acidic and preserving it with milk. But basically, you take this high acidic base and you put in milk and then you strain out those curds. I always say it's like you don't want to see the sausage be made. It's not the most beautiful process to think about, but the end product is such a luxurious, amazing cocktail. When those curds are strained out, it takes all of the pigment away. So it leaves whatever you stirred it with into this clear, beautiful in appearance, like a crystalline cocktail, but it also removes all the tannins. So think about what tannins do in wines. They're those rough edges, those those flavors that are not great. So when it takes all of the tannins out, everything is silky and smooth and beautiful.
So what drink are you doing with this?
So this one is, again, it actually has a strawberry Grey Goose, and again, it has wild thyme honey to it. And I'm actually clarifying it with a honey Greek yogurt, again, telling the story of the Mediterranean instead of just using a whole milk to get that out. And that gives a lot of really fun, like lactic acid and the great honey flavors to it. Super fun cocktail. I think glassware is something that's really fun in cocktails, and that's always part of my creative process of getting like novel, beautiful presentations. I have a Spanish hand-blown blowfish glass, and it has a spicy margarita in it, and guests obviously just love taking pictures with it, and they're going to love whatever I serve in it.
When you say blowfish glass, it looks like a blowfish?
It looks like a blowfish. It has a cute little stem on it. I call that sun sign. Pisces is a sun sign on the astrology chart.
But if you're going to get to blowfish, that's going to take us to Japanese food. That's going to get to the restaurant Mizumi.
Yes.
First question.
Mm-hmm.
Is Japanese scotch that good? Or Japanese whiskey?
Japanese whiskey, I think it's amazing. And again, it's stylistically just very different, but there's so many different styles as well. It's hard to group them all as one flavor.
Well, you're doing, what's this drink called? I'm going to mispronounce it probably. Shizen?
I have a bunch of really fun cocktails for Mizumi. So when you think about the whole menu is inspired by Japanese aesthetics. In Japan, an aesthetic is a mindset or kind of a value or a way of thinking. So I have a list of highballs. I forget what I have in the Shizen. That's what the problem when you have so many hundreds of cocktails at the same time. But kawaii, for instance, means adorable. So it's this really beautiful presentation that is like cutesy-ish. And then there is wabi-sabi, which is Japanese old-fashioned. So we're using Japanese whiskey, black burnt sugar, red date bitters. It's in this beautiful glass. We have yugen, which is our spicy margarita. And I take gochujang paste, which obviously is Korean, not Japanese, but very adjacent in flavors. And then so I make a paint across the glass and dust togarashi. So it's a play on a spicy margarita. When you go to any one of my venues, you're going to see a spicy margarita, an espresso martini, those kind of things. But I like to take the region and dedicate the flavors to that certain region.
We could talk about these restaurants and these drinks forever. We only have a certain amount of time, and I want to move on to some other stuff. But I talked with Sarah Thompson, who is the executive chef of Casa Playa at the Wynn. She does coastal Mexican cuisine. You did something for her called the Obsidian?
Obsidian is one of the more popular margaritas. So everything is coastally inspired Mexican ingredients. The Obsidian is a Fresno chili, cucumber, spicy margarita, salt on the outside. Obsidian is a black rock that's naturally occurring in volcanic soil, which is predominant in the agave fields in Mexico. So it's my homage to Obsidian itself, but it pairs really well with her cuisine.
We've talked about all these drinks with alcohol in them, and yet I am told that maybe the biggest thing in cocktails right now is zero proof mocktails. What are you doing in that realm?
That's really exploding, not just in Las Vegas, but I think like globally. I love it. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I actually don't drink.
You are one of the world's leading mixologists and you don't drink?
I don't. I do taste everything that I make. I taste every spirit. I get very granular. I taste every single cocktail. I just don't drink recreationally, and I haven't finished a full cocktail in about 10 years or so.
Do you mind?
Not at all.
Not to get too personal, but what motivated that decision?
My husband and I, when we had just gotten married and we were talking about starting a family, and honestly, he deserved the best of me and my family deserved the best of me. And I knew that I wasn't always my best self when I drank. I didn't have some huge problem. There wasn't any huge thing. And then after that, I was, taking care and breastfeeding of these two tiny little babies. And so it just never has worked its way back in my life. And one day it might. And I love obviously tasting, experiencing everything that I create, but it just isn't part of my life. So I'm excited to create those experiences for other people that might not be drinking.
Can a mocktail be as good? I mean, there's an element of a cocktail. In my mind, there's two kinds of cocktails. There's the ones that completely mask the presence of the alcohol taste-wise, and I'm not real fond of those. And then there's the ones that take the taste of that alcohol and do something nice with it. Can you get that kind of flavor profile without the alcohol?
I think that this category is still like getting its sea legs, right? It's still growing. I think there's a lot of getting some kinks out and some different non-alcoholic spirits, definitely. And they've continually gotten better. So I think it's going to only improve over the years. But you have to get very creative if you're looking to maybe recreate a whiskey or something that's been barrel aged. Maybe go to a tea that has tannins as well alcohol to create those barrel notes. So you do have to get very creative in the way that you do it. But yes, I believe so. Every one of my menus across the Wynn I was starting with 2 mocktails and people are requesting more. So for my new menu, I'm doing 4 different zero proofs on it.
Is that the big growing section of the cocktail world?
I think so. Definitely.
Do you think it's health concerns or more of us saying, I was fine when I was 20, but I'm not 20?
I like to call it mindful hedonism. It's still indulging, but indulging in a way that's mindful. I think everyone's, concerned about what we're putting in our bodies and just more mindful. And maybe it's not drinking or maybe it's having one on, one off, just being more moderate in things. And I think because we can now, I can do an Aperol spritz adjacent, and that cocktail may have been really hard to recreate 10 years ago. But now we have bitters and aperitifs that are zero proof. We have, if you've ever looking for a zero proof champagne, I love one called Lyre's Classico. That's the one thing I miss from not drinking is a celebratory glass of champagne. But Lyre's Classico sparkling, it definitely has all of those notes that a great glass of champagne does.
You are, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, you're a rarity in the mixology world by gender. Are you not?
I think that there are definitely a lot more women these days in our field for sure. In the early days, I remember being very much considered to be token. It would be 2 women in a room of 100 men. But there's so many powerhouse women these days that I would say that there's a paradigm shift for sure.
You have made a big point, though, of advocating for women in your line of work and, as I understand it, across the board in Vegas. Tell me about that.
Definitely. I definitely want to break that glass ceiling and be able to help any other women along the way, any people in general that are passionate. But because I think we kind of chatted about how I may have been objectified early on in my career, and much to my chagrin, I took it and kind of steered it the other way and made it my own. I don't want anybody else to have to go through that. So I definitely want to be able to help on the knowledge side and give a hand to anyone that is interested in it.
What do you see coming down the pike in your world?
Definitely for next year, I'd say a trend would be the hot and dirty martini. It's something I've been putting on menus, and people that I haven't heard from in 10 years suddenly texting me wanting the recipe and things like that because it's a classic. I love doing plays on classics because they're nostalgic. And what is nostalgia? Nostalgia is a happy place. If you can access someone's happy place, that's golden, right? They want to come back to that well every time. So I love doing something that means a lot. Everyone loves a good dirty martini, doing a better one. So hot and dirties for sure, zero proof cocktails. The espresso martini is not dying anytime soon. That's something that is everywhere. It used to be going out at night, but now it's in the morning, lunch, night, brunch, all those kind of things. So great plays on espresso martinis and doing them in ways that are exciting and flavorful and interesting and pair well with culinary.
Last question. Are more chefs starting to understand that this should be an integrated part of the dining experience?
I definitely think so. I think most chefs enjoy a great cocktail and are as fascinated as bartenders and mixologists are about what's going on in the kitchen. So there's definitely some shared dialogue there. I think there's a lot of chefs that are wanting to, and again, have that kind of storytelling element of all parties working together.
A great meal is a great meal. It's a wonderful shared experience.
Right.
This has been a real pleasure. It's great to meet you, and I'm fascinated by what you have to say. So keep on mixing.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of you and all your work. So thank you.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you so much, Mariena.
Of course. Cheers.
Mariena Mercer Boarini on Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page. I'll see you next time. And check out my Culinary Characters Unlocked Substack.